a lot in the news about the deliberations between the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament when the chairman of the board at the University Hospital of the West Indies, the permanent secretary in the health ministry, acting permanent secretary in the health ministry, and other members of the team appeared before the committee on Tuesday of this week. A lot has been in the news. And in fact, if you listen to the news, you'd think that there is some new information that has been unearthed about the operations of the University Hospital of the West Indies, and in particular, the misuse of its tax exemption status. You would really think that something of substance came out of that Public Accounts Committee. In fact, when I watched the Public Accounts Committee, I couldn't help but to think, I really wish I'd get more out of these committee hearings. I'm not interested in the soliloquy. I'm not interested in the commentary of the people who are members of the committee. I'm interested in getting some more information, if possible, on top of what we already know. But there was a 4-hour session in the Parliament, and very little, if anything, new came out of that committee meeting. Very little. So when you look back, I expect members of committee, when they're going there, to, at the very least, read the document which forms the backdrop against which they are questioning the officials who turn up there. And when you read it, it makes great flow if you indicate to members of the public who may not have read the document, in this case the Auditor General's report. It makes for good flow if you indicate where in the document you're questioning the people who are present before you on. And on top of that, one of the ways I find it extremely beautiful in dealing with anything, whether it's on the radio or in other arenas, it is very admirable for you to show as opposed to tell. In other words, before you come to your grand conclusions with your pontificating, show us how you get to the conclusion that you may be reaching preemptorily. Yeah? Why do I watch this thing and walk away feeling so let down by the entire process? Except for maybe one 15-minute episode in an over 3-hour long sitting. Why do I walk away with this? I walk away with this because even a quick reading of the Auditor General's report, you will notice that she outlines what was found in relation to private company 1, private company 2, private company 3, private company 4. and what happened inside that parliament. Perhaps the big news, if it is of any value, is that the chairman of the board of the UHWI disclosed the identities of the companies. But every single thing, everything else that came out, is all contained in the Auditor General's report. And we are running with it in the news like it's some aha moment. There's no revelation there. It is 3 to 4 hours of grand waste of time. Because it is clear to me that many members are not reading the report and they're not interested in finding the why. It is supposed to be, for the most part, an inquisitorial sitting. It need not become adversarial because some of us want to understand the why. So before I go to some of what came out of that report, let us review, for example, what the Auditor General said in her report some months old about the misuse of the tax exemption status. The UHWI misused its tax exemption status to facilitate the importation of office furniture and medical equipment with cost insurance freight valued at approximately 40.6 million for private company 2. This led to private company 2 benefiting from a tax relief of $10 million. Our review highlighted discrepancies and conflicting information across multiple customs and shipping documents. And bear in mind as well, we heard from the Auditor General's report that they'd also got documents from customs. Yeah, and that is expected. There are certain statutory powers that entities like the Auditor General, entities like the Integrity Commission, they have those powers, and we expect them to use the full powers statutorily given to get the information that they get, so that when they put to us a report, it is as near comprehensive as possible, and all that is necessary is for the police to go in and do the additional work because the criminal threshold may be higher than administrative threshold or whatever sort of administrative breaches one can talk about. So the Auditor General tells us that there were discrepancies and conflicting information with the customs and shipping documents. So the customs entry document dated February 1, 2024 listed UHWI Private Wing as the importer. The name of the former CEO noted as the responsible party for financial settlement. Let me take a break. So the Auditor General's report, which is now months old, into the breaches identified at the University Hospital of the West Indies, says, among other things, that there's a custom entry document dated February 1, 2024, which listed the private wing at UWI as the importer, and the name of the former UHWI CEO noted as the responsible party for financial settlement, despite that the former CEO's employment ended in November 2022. So understand this. Auditor General went in. She found this customs entry document which had a date of February 1, 2024, and it has on it the former CEO as the person responsible for the financial settlement of that import. But the problem has arisen because that former CEO's employment ended in November of 2022. She continues, the conflicting information continues where the customs declaration, or the C-84, dated the same February 1, 2024, identified UHWI as the importer. This document reflected the current CEO's name and signature, declaring that all particulars are true and correct. Of note, the customs entry document bore the name of a customs broker that is not the contracted broker of UHWI. In other words, from months ago, what we had as coming from the Auditor General's report are documents on which there are glaring discrepancies and, at its highest, possibly fraud, subject to handwriting analysis of these purported, well, it didn't say in signatures. I heard the current chairman saying signature, and I believe I heard this, the permanent secretary in the parliament say the signature on a document. But if it is signature, there are provable ways of finding out to some degree of accuracy because of the science of handwriting analysis, whether those signatures were forged or not. But we're not there just yet. Then the Auditor General continues, UHWI did not provide copies of the purchase requisition or procurement documentation to verify the need for the items, the selection of the bidder, and the award of the contract. Also, UHWI did not provide payment support nor inventory records for review. For example, from the items listed among the imports shown in Appendix 2, we selected 12 dialysis machines to determine whether the items were included in UHWI's inventory records and were in existence. However, UHWI did not provide 12 dialysis machines and other imported items for inspection. Our review of UHWI's inventory records revealed that the last recorded set of dialysis machines was in January 2020, consisting of 24 AK-98 dialysis machines received as a donation. We further conducted an audit inspection of the dialysis unit at UWI on the 2nd of July 2025, where we observed 26 machines, of which 15 were out of service for various reasons, and only 11 were operational. None of them were from the set of 12 imported in 2024. Consequently, we found no evidence indicating that the imported goods and equipment were the property of UHWI. And information from customs agency showed that the broker paid the outstanding tax of 1.1 million with both cash and a credit card, which further suggests the goods did not belong to UHWI. In other words, when I watched and listened to that 3 to 4 hour long presentation in the parliament, nothing new was unearthed. All we have had are the disclosures of the names of the company, Supreme Laundry Services, Wilman Sales, Scientific Medical Services, and Jack Den Limited. Jack Den Limited, I pause here for the moment, and I've always said, I completely appreciate the non-disclosure by the Auditor General of the names of the company at the time the report was tabled in the Parliament, because the allegations against these companies are major. We learned, based on what came out, the other thing that came out in the Parliament, the Public Accounts Committee, that Jack Den paid over must be $10 million to the customs agency because of the benefit it received as a result of the improper use of UHWI, of its tax exemption status in relation to the dialysis machine and other objects or articles. So they've paid over some $10 million. But that is not the end of the story for Jack then. In fact, the thing that I desired hearing from the Public Accounts Committee did not come, could not come, and that is because there are several investigations now running concurrently, and it seems to me on the face of it, because of this scheme that is now appearing, where the Auditor General tells us that a former CEO is listed as the person responsible for financial settlement of the duty. And this document was dated the 1st of February 2024, but that former CEO left over a year and a half before. The Auditor General tells us as well, wherever the document reflects a customs broker, that customs broker is not contracted to UHWI, and the document also reflected the current CEO's name and signature, declaring that all the particulars are true and correct, but the current CEO says he knows nothing of it. So it must be that answers come within the context of the investigation, declaring who the ultimate beneficiary of all of these discrepancies and inconsistencies. Who is that beneficiary, and is it sufficient if the money is simply paid back? And it becomes therefore for the moment, especially for one of the persons behind Jack Den, it becomes an issue of ethical considerations. In light of what is now there, and in light of you becoming a member of Parliament by virtue of the vote of people in a constituency in the last election, is it appropriate for you to remain in the House of Representatives based on the findings of the Auditor General in relation to the company to which you are attached? And on top of that, in light of the positions that were taken over the last couple of months before the disclosure of the name of the company in the Parliament, know that the name of the company has been disclosed. Where do you stand, you having been so vociferous in denying any alleged involvement of your company in any wrongdoing? Where does it stand now? What do you do? What is expected? And if the individual is not personally moved, is the party to which the individual belongs, is it to be moved by what has now, by the disclosure of the name of the company? And if it is not so moved, why not? So there's a lot in this. And more than anything else, I want to ask, you see these committees of Parliament, your roles are so crucial. And I ask that when you get the time with the people because of your power of compulsion, compelling people to come to you for answers. Those moments you have the people should be used in a much better way. Ask the questions. Save the commentary. I mean, I watch a lot of hearings in the United States, and I get so outraged because they get 5 minutes for their questions, and all they fire off are pre-prepared statements with their own conclusions from even before the hearings have commenced. And when they put a question to the individual and the individual wants to answer, they go, no, I take my minutes back. And then 20 seconds into the thing, they say, I yield back. Let it not become the practice here. Parliamentarians who have the privilege of becoming members of this committee, you need to read. And when you read, you go to the committee, make the committees inquisitorial, so that whatever gaps are there, you can fill in the gaps. No gaps were filled in the Public Accounts Committee, and I hope when they do have the benefit of these individuals back with them week after next, they will make greater use of the time allotted to them, because there are people who are watching and desire to hear more. Those are my thoughts for the moment.
Join us next time for Emily's Views on the Hotline.
Did you know that Bank of Jamaica works to keep inflation or the rate at